Three, two, one. So if you are watching us live stream, there's a link there also. But if you're watching, I would love for you to send me an email to rabbijana@gmail.com and let me know that you're watching. And that way you're registered. Since we are streaming these classes, we are not requiring a tuition. You're welcome to make a donation. We are about to have, but don't yet have, ways of doing it online. The website where you can find all of the material for this is www.hebrewdoc, which is short for Hebrew Doctor and HebrewDocuments.com. Last time we did this, and the previous class is still posted online, last time we did this, I was projecting the lessons from Hebrew Doc, but I'm not sure that that came out as clear as we would like to, as clearly, so I'm hoping that this might come out better, but all of this comes from that HebrewDoc.com website. And ideally, one day, I will take the video that comes from me showing you all of this and intersperse it with full screen versions of all of this. That's the ideal. But so far, I'm having enough fun just finding the time to teach the class period and the fact that there's materials. I am trying very hard to get more materials up there. I have some new exciting ideas. So don't be surprised if one day soon you see a major revamp of the website where it can be, all the material is there now, but you will be able to ideally also have a better way of seeing step by step your most effective way of learning if you're going to be doing it on your own. So all of you and anybody watching, if you've got ideas of how to make it more user-friendly or other materials that you think are going to be helpful or places where you found mistakes, please let me know. I have my kids, the little ones, they're really good at this. They'll say, it said it was a mem, and it was really, they'll point out that I accidentally uploaded the wrong file or something. I appreciate them very much. Not all, but at least some of them. All right, so let me tell you, if you hear, you know, or you may know, I've been teaching Hebrew, believe it or not, for about 40 years already. But to be honest, that is since I was a teenager, I've been teaching Hebrew. I love teaching Hebrew. I try very hard to make it as easy and fun as I can. If you are over the age of 10, and everyone here is over the age of 10, then you will have a really hard time trying to pronounce, pronounce the letters in a way that will sound like a native Israeli. I will try to show you what those ways are, but I also recommend that you stand in front of a mirror and say something like, yes, I am from Shreveport, because if you get to a point where you can actually communicate in Israel, you're probably not going to fool anybody. So you might as well own up to who you are, and that's okay. You could be fluent at the end of eventually, but you're probably, because you're starting this after the age of 10, you're probably going to always sound like you have some kind of a pick a place, any place, like Shreveport. You sound like you're from Shreveport. I will show you, as we're learning the letter sounds, I will show you what the modern Israeli pronunciation is compared to what we might be sounding it out as. But whether or not you will ever be able to make those sounds, don't be too hard on yourself. That's all I could say. If you studied a language like when you were in school, like middle school, high school, then you may have had a better chance of sounding a little bit more fluent or a little bit more native. Just live with it. Yes, I am from Shreveport. Wherever it is you come from, get used to saying that. I'll tell you some sad stories along the way of things that happened to me like that. And you need some paper or something, but you've got this. And eventually I'd like you to sign in. So as I said, if you're watching this online, then I'd like you to sign in by emailing me at rabbijana@gmail.com. And then I'll know that you're here and let me know the best way of getting in touch with you. And I like to know why you're learning and what other languages. Who has studied other languages here? What other language? Okay, French, Spanish, Latin. Anybody else have French, Spanish, Latin? Spanish from Mexico? French and Russian. I like knowing sometimes what other languages you've known because I can sometimes tie things that I need to teach you into the fact that you know another language. All right, we've got some paper. We got stacks of paper here. We've got pencils. I've got a yellow pad going around that's trying to be a sign-in sheet so I know who came today in case you need this. And so let me give you an idea. Hebrew is an awesome language. I am going to say that Hebrew is the language that God created the world in, using. You don't have to believe that, and it's okay with me. It's still fun anyway. But if we want to accept the Hebrew scriptures as true, there's paper, pencils. Yeah, the front this way. The handicap accents come around to the next driveway. This is important for you to know too. If you're coming into the building, instead of using the wooden ones, if you need to, come into the door over there, the back entrance, and it's unlocked right now. It's not usually, but it is today. And then I'll move this back and we'll make sure he can come in. We'll see you in a minute. So, as I said, it doesn't matter to me what you think about who wrote the Bible or how the Bible came to be or whether the stories are true. We can talk about that another time. But the way I'm going to suggest it, especially since what we're going to be using is the first day of creation as our minimal text about how to learn Hebrew, I'm going to say that God used these words. And the further we get into these lessons, the more you're going to realize. There's a water fountain right here, ma'am, if you'd like. Right around the corner. Just go down the steps and to your right. And while we're doing that, let me let you know, we are live streaming the services. That thing underneath the clock above the exit sign, that R2D2 thing, that's the camera. If you don't have a microphone on you, they can't hear anything at all that you're saying. You guys could all scream right now and they would have no idea you were screaming. So you are welcome to say, ask, whatever it is that you need. And if it's something that sounds like it's worth repeating because they probably have the same question, let's say, or if you pointed out that I made a mistake, everybody needs to know, I'll repeat it for you. But everything you do is not being recorded, only everything I'm doing. So let me tell you some things about Hebrew. There are no capital letters. There are no lowercase letters, although rarely in the Torah, in the 5 books of Moses, rarely you will find some letters that are bigger and some letters that are littler. And it's fun to see them because then you get to ask questions like, why did they do that? In fact, the very first letter, these are the first 2 words of Torah. These are the first 2 words of how God created the world. The very first letter in the Torah is bigger. And we get to ask why. You don't get to ask that if you're reading an English version of the Bible. You don't get to ask a question like, so your Bible, I'm going to say that, bless you, I'm going to say that probably your translation says something like, in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. That's your first sentence. I don't think it makes any sense to ask the question, why did God create the world starting with the letter I for in? It doesn't make any sense to ask that question because you know that's not what happened. You know that what happened is, that's the first letter. And by the end of today, you will be able to read the first 2 words of the Torah. And actually a whole bunch more. This cute little thing down here shows you that you're learning a whole bunch of letters. The first 2 are the black ones, and you'll have learned a lot, and it's getting better. It's some of the most common consonants. When you're looking at Hebrew, you're looking primarily at the consonants. If you were looking at a Torah scroll, and hopefully by the end of the class, you'll take a field trip down the hall, and there's an open Torah scroll so you can see what it looks like. It's a handwritten scroll. But if you're looking at a Torah scroll, if you're looking at Hebrew, if you're looking at a newspaper in Israel, you are going to see the consonants, and you're going to see almost no vowels or no vowels at all. Vowels are the little dots and dashes that come under the letters, sometimes next to the letters. Those were only put on a few hundred years ago by a group called the Masoretes. So if you're looking at a Bible and you have a translation of a Bible, most often, the version you're going to see is going to say, according to the Masoretic text. And that means that they used the version that plopped in all of these vowels to try to make it consistent. So once we start looking at grammar rules, the awesome thing about this is because they created vowel rules after the fact, they're incredibly regular. It's kind of wonderful. So we are going to start. It's called Hebrew from day 1 when I teach it because we use the first day of creation, but also because I want you to know some Hebrew by the end of the first day. So normally I'll start by telling you all the cool reasons why you want to be learning Hebrew, but I want to start by starting. I want you to know some Hebrew already. So these letters, and I'm trying to make them big enough so that Everybody can see? But these letters are the Aleph-Bet characters. This is also the Aleph-Bet characters, and hopefully, even if you don't stop and count, you can see that this has more letters than this. And if you ask me how many letters are there in the Hebrew Aleph-Bet, which is a good question, how many letters are there in Hebrew Aleph-Bet? How many letters are in the English alphabet? 26. So officially, if I had to answer you how many letters are in the Hebrew alphabet, officially I would have to say 22. Now, hopefully you said, what does she mean by that? Or hopefully you eyeballed this and you saw that there's way more than 22 letters. And that's because some letters are going to be slightly different if they've got dots in them, or slightly different if the dots move over. Or on this one, you're going to see some characters that are in the final letter shape. Hey, dude, where you want to come?
You tell me.
Well, one option is if you can go all the way around there, then you could get a good view from back there. Is that good? Let's see if you can make that. And if not, next time, I guarantee we'll start with, whoa, can you do that? Sorry. All right, we'll move that over. If not, can you do that? It should be. We scaled it for that. Okay. So I'm going to teach you all of these letters, and I'm going to teach them as if, because it's a slightly different shape, like some of these letters have different shapes at the end of a word than anywhere else in the word. If it's a different shape or if it's a slightly different sound, even though it's the same letter, I'm going to teach it to you as if it's different letters because you're learning how to read. Ideally, at the end of the class, which could be today what we learn, and at the end of the 6 weeks, ideally you will be able to sound out anything I put in front of you. Sound out anything, read anything I put in front of you. You may understand some of the words, but you'll be able to read anything we put in front of you. That's the goal. Today, you'll be able to read all that. But first, you get to sing. So you have to repeat after me. You do not have to, in order to be successful in this class, you do not have to know the name of any of the letters. But in order to ever be able to look a word up, it really helps if you know the order of the alphabet. Trust me, because I remember trying before I knew, and it was bad. It was really bad. So I teach the song so that you can hopefully get a clue about what the order is. Because tell me that if you look something up right now or you have to file things, you're not saying like L-M-N-O-P. You're not singing it to yourself, right? So we have here the Aleph-Bet song. Repeat after me. And you better sing. They can't hear you. You can sing. Aleph-Bet, vet. You sound really good. Thank you. Gimel, Dalet, Hey. I have to tell you, the melody was written by Debbie Friedman, now a blessed memory. Hey is not really a two-syllable word, but she was from Texas, so, she lived there for a while. So some of these things, it sounds like they're more than one syllable, but it's not. Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet. Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet. And you'll notice this is the first of our letters. Can you chuch at all? Anybody here chuch? All right. If you can chuch at all, we have two different chuching sounds. This is the first one. You can chuch the same in both. They officially don't have the same sound. In fact, there are a few sounds that in English thinking, we will call them the same sound, and you will be fine. But in Hebrew, in original Hebrew, they had different sounds. Chet is one of them. There's also, we're about to see on the next line, chaf. And there's a difference between chet and chaf. But if you can chuch it all and you chuch the same for both of them, you're fine. But I'm just warning you, that's coming. And I will explain to you as we get to learn them how you say it and how you hear the difference. But I'm warning you that there's a chuch there. So we just did vav, zayin, chet, tet, and now we're going to do yud, kaf, chaf, yud, kaf, chaf, lamed, mem, nun, lamed, mem, nun, samech, ayin, pefe, samech, ayin, pefe, tzadi, kuf, resh, tzadi, kuf, resh, shin, sin, tav, ba, ba, da, ba, da. Shin, sin, tav, ba, ba, da, ba, da. Nobody ba, ba, da, ba, da. I hope you ba, ba, da, ba, da, but nobody did here. We're going to do it one more time from the beginning. Aleph, bet, vet. Gimel, dalet, hey. Vav, zayin, chet, tet. Yud, kaf, chaf. Lamed, mem, nun. Samech Ayin Peh Fe. Tzadik Kuf Resh. Shin Sin Tav Ba Ba Da Ba Da. Okay, somebody ba ba da ba da. Okay, that was better. We're done. You know all the alphabet. No, just kidding. You don't know all of them. But we're going to expose you to all the letters each time at the beginning of class. If I forget, you got to remind me. I had a cute time one year I was teaching continuing ed at LSUS. And by the time we get to like the fourth class, you know this song already. So I might ask, or at least this previous year, I asked for a volunteer. Somebody want to lead it. And that day we had a kid who showed up to class. She was like 11, and her mom had brought her because it was in the middle of a school day, but the mom had brought her because the kid had a dentist appointment or something. And so she shows up, and I said, well, who wants to lead it today? And this kid, who's not even in my class, says, oh, I do. I said, cool. So I said, okay, point. And I gave her a pointer. I didn't give her this one. This one's really cool. I'll explain this one day. But I gave her a pointer, and she got up there, and she explained to me that the reason why she knows it is because mom listened to, in those days, it was a cassette in the car. And so she gets up there, and she said, Aleph-Bet, vet. And I said, Ma, you have to post this somewhere. Put it on your refrigerator or something. Hebrew goes this way, and you got to look at the letters if you want to know the letters. So I want to hear Aleph-Bet, vet. I want you to at least be looking at them some of the time. This song is a good song to listen to in the car or when you're shaving or when you're like between commercials or something. I always recommend that you try to put at least 5 minutes of Hebrew a day. Just try that. And then by next time when I see you, you won't forget everything we did. All right, now we have my world-famous patented vowel aerobics. This is one where you get to be the vowels. I found a long time ago that vowels can be a really important help to learning how to read fluently. And I don't know, how well are we seeing this, Tim, back there? Can we see it? So, it's a little bit far, huh? How is it? All right, so I'm going to draw them so that they're bigger. But if you see, and I'm going to put this, that's an X, that's not a Hebrew letter, but that shows you a place marker of where the letter, where the vowel is going to be under it. If you see, and I'm going to, I'll do it this way. If you see a line under a letter, then I want you to do this. Stretch your body, be one long line, and say, ah. Try it. Ah. Stretch and say, ah. It feels good. Stretch. If you see a line and then another part like this, then I want you to make your body to shape like that and say, ah. Ah. See? So this is just relaxing. Ah. If you see a line under a letter, it's going to sound like ah. So you can sound out both of those. So this one sounds like ah, and this one sounds like ah. And as much as possible, you want to be those vowels. It will help. Trust me. And then the next one we have is this. So I'm going to take one little dot, I'm going to squeak my nose and say E. So one little dot under a consonant sounds like E. You're going to see that the chart that I made here, they're actually different colors because this is aqua, and this is E for green, but depends on how much help you want with these things. So this one is E. If I take this, and I take this, and that was supposed to be blue again, see? I must have swapped my caps. If I take this, it means I'm doing this. I'm taking the top of my ear and bending it down so it's shaped like this, E, like this. So it sounds like E, E. So this one is E, and this one is E. So I'm going to tell you something. I have this chart, so everything up here. These are long vowels. These are short vowels. You're not going to have to know that, not even by the end of the 6th lesson. But there are long vowels and short vowels in Hebrew. Could you tell me the difference between ah and ah? Could you tell me the difference between E and E as a long vowel or short vowel? No. Not necessarily, kind of. It shouldn't have. Everybody should have said ah. Everybody should have said ah. Did you hear? So the truth is that the sound may not be very different, but where they are in a word is going to be different. And until you have words, it's not going to help. But I'm just letting you know, unlike in English, when we have the long vowel and the short vowel of the same vowel, and you're going to hear a big difference, in Hebrew, you're not necessarily going to see the difference until eventually when you get words and I show you why it's a long vowel or a short vowel. And that may not even happen at all in the lifetime of our 6 classes. It's actually, it's structural within the context of the word. And it's going to be a structure that you're already familiar with from English, but we'll get to that once you know some words. Right now you don't know any words, so it doesn't help. But I'm just letting you know that's why I have 2 of the same thing so far. The next ones are once again going to be, so I've got the short vowel version. I'm going to do it slightly differently. The short vowel version looks like this. I would love to call this a bowling ball, but if I said bowling ball and I wanted you to remember what it sounds like, there's no any of those sounds in this. So I do it like this. You take your nose, and you take this hand, and you take this hand, and you're fed up, and you go, eh, eh, eh. That's what this is, those 3. Eh. Come on in. You coming? So that's an eh, because we're fed up. On the other hand, I lost my color. On the other hand, if I take this, that's kind of a lazier version, the 2 dots. So I have this, and I go, eh. Same thing, eh. Not surprising. I hope you're not surprised now that they're both the same sound. So this one is eh, and this one is eh, and this one is e, and this one is e, and this one is ah, and this one is ah. Really important that you remember them. I'm very proud of all of you who are acting them out because it helps, trust me. All right, and then we've got, I'm running out of room down here. Then we've got this one. Trying to make more colors. I hope you can see that. So this one is, and I'm going to, bless you, love you. I'm going to say that this is zooming down the tube slide. If I say zooming, and that's what you remember, I promise you, when I ask you, what's this vowel sound, there's going to be some moment in your life that you're going to go zzz. And I'm like, the vowel sound, the vowel sound. So I am sad that I say zooming because everybody's going to say z, but it's supposed to be ooh. So everybody, come on, ooh, like Beach Boys or something, ooh. Then we get to the ones that are standing next to. So this is Mr. Vav. And Mr. Vav is up at bat. And Mr. Vav has the ball pitched to him, and Mr. Vav's ball goes right into his stomach, and he says, ooh. That's the ooh. Are we surprised? No, that's an ooh, so we're not surprised that this is an ooh. And then the last one down here, which I'm running out of space, and I hate that, but the last one down here, I'm going to try like this. Hopefully we can still see it. The last one down here is this. I'm going to start with long. This one is Mr. Vav again, except instead of pitching it into his stomach, the ball goes over his head, and he says, oh. And sometimes it's not even a Vav there, and it's just the ball is about to go over a consonant, and that's also an O. And so guess what this vowel is going to sound like? Oh, you're good. All right. But the sad part is, this is what it looks like. Yeah. Hopefully you recognize that because it looks like this. On my charts, you're going to see it because my font on my word processor makes it a longer one. So sometimes you will see a distinction. Sometimes you won't see a distinction. So sometimes the distinction is going to be longer. In the prayer book that we're using now that you see in front of you in the pews, it's got like a separation between the top and the bottom. And so this is going to sound like, oh, I call it the saddest, most misunderstood vowel, oh, because it looks like, ah, but it sounds like, oh. And the answer is it's always going to be structurally, you'll know, most of the time it's going to be this. If you have to guess one or the other, guess that, ah. But every once in a while it's going to be oh, and sooner or later you'll know how to find the difference. And don't worry about it so much now, but just know that it exists. One more, run through, quiz, go. This one. This one. E, this one. E, this one. This one. This one. Ooh, this one. Ooh. Be really careful how you do this because every once in a while I get enthusiastic and I go, ooh, and then it hurts. Don't hurt yourself, just ooh. Notice it's not touching the belly, it's just ooh. And then we're going to do this one, O, and this one is also O, and this one is O. That's very good. Those are your 10 vowels. There are a couple of others that I'm going to show you now that are either they're vowel markers. I'm going to show you the vowel markers. Some of them are, we also have some diphthongs that I can show you. If you printed out the vowel flashcards from the page, you'll get to see all of these too. So we like to call, I'm losing them right and left. We like to call these sounds the sounds that are below the line. Because on the old chart it used to be, there was a line there and it was below the line. Because the things I'm about to show you now are not officially vowels. There's not enough of a sound for it to officially be a vowel. It is officially kind of the absence of vowel sound. In Hebrew, if I show you a word, every consonant except the last one is supposed to have a vowel marker under it. And so these are what happens when there's not enough sound to have a whole vowel. So we have two that look like this. And this is going to be one of those ways that you're going to see how the same thing can act in a word, and you'll see the difference. It's called, by the way, in Hebrew it's called shva. Some of you may remember your English grammar days, your spelling days, and hear about the schwa. They got their name from this, because the schwa is the absence of vowel sound, and it acts in two ways. One is a moving schwa, and if I have a moving schwa, I like to think of this as kind of a stoplight, but it's only got two lights. So imagine you've got like a green and a red, and there's no yellow. So you're either going or, stop, sorry, didn't mean to scream my hand. And there's no yellow, just saying. So if it's a moving schwa, if it's at the beginning of a word or syllable, it's going to be a moving schwa, and it's going to sound like this. And then you say, slicha, excuse me, because it sounds like a burp. My kids love that. Slicha. So is what it's going to sound like if it's the beginning of a word or syllable. And then you've got this one, which I sometimes show like this. It's a resting schwa, so that's my red light. And it sounds like this. You're good at that one. So the moving schwa is and the resting schwa is. Now, you'll notice here that I'm not done yet, but I'm close to done. So this is what happens when I have, I'm just going to show them to you. We'll worry about them later. This is what happens when I have a silent consonant, and there are 4 essentially silentish consonants, that need to have a moving schwa. If I have a silent consonant with a moving schwa, I can't have a silent consonant with a moving schwa. I have to have some kind of a helper vowel so that I can say something. If I had a word like this, let's do this word, B-N-A-I. That's the name of my congregation, right? That's how we transliterate it. But I usually put an apostrophe there because what's between the B and the N? Say it. Say b'nai. B'nai. So the thing that's between the B and the N is this. If I had to write this in Hebrew, I would have to have a b and not an apostrophe. I would have to have a b and a moving schwa. I'm going the other way now. But I'd have to have a moving schwa. B'ni, that's b'nai. That's what it is. It's b'nai. It's kind of an apostrophe. It's the thing that comes between two consonants when there's nothing that's coming between the two consonants. And that's as much of a sound as it's going to make. That's it. I can't not say between the b and the n. B'nai. I can't not say it. But if I had a silent consonant before the n, I could say a lot of nothing. And you wouldn't know that it's there at all. That doesn't make sense. But trust me on this one. All right. So we've got 3 different composite vowels, auxiliary vowels, that we can add to it. And when you see this, what it means is you've got a moving schwa under a silent consonant, and you need to be able to say it somehow. So we're going to say this like this. The only thing you have to know how to do is see that. You see the 2 dots, and you see this, and it's going to sound like And then you're going to see another one that looks like this. You still have your 2 dots, and you're going to have this vowel is another one of the auxiliary vowels, and it's going to sound like eh. And the other option is this one, and it's a short vowel version, so it's going to sound like o. So if you see that, the composites, those 3, eh, or o, then you know what to do with it. All you have to do is be able to sound it out. Remember, that's your goal. Be able to sound out anything I put in front of you. There are also some diphthongs. We're not even going to worry about that yet because I really want to get to the consonants. Yeah, you will worry about them, trust me. Actually, the thing that's going to worry, a diphthong is when you kind of blend 2 vowels together. But I'm going to blow your mind if I talk to you about diphthongs, so I'm not ready to blow your mind yet. I'd rather blow your mind with these consonants today. So let me show you this. You ready for consonants? This is cool. All right, I'm going to make lines. I'm making them mostly invisible, so they're not distracting. I'm going to show you approximately, this is a square that shows you approximately the size of what a normal letter is, and you see what the normal letters are. There are a couple, hopefully you've noticed, are a little bit skinnier. There's one that goes above the line, there's one that goes below the line, but this is approximately the size of a standard letter, okay, just to give you an idea. Couple cool things about letters. One is that when I write in Hebrew, the letters are formed from the top down. When I'm thinking in English, if I'm writing in English, the letters are all sitting on the bottom line. But in Hebrew, they come from the top down, which if you think about it, as we started this, if you think about the fact that God created the world using letters and words to make up the world, and if you have this concept of kind of, in order for God to make the world, God is kind of looking down at the world, then it doesn't surprise you that these letters are whoosh, coming down to make the world. So, having said that, mind blown yet? Not yet. Okay, the very first letter in the Torah is this one. I'm going to make a line, and you can write this down. I'm going to make a line. I'm going to go down. So I'm going this way. First line goes this way. I'm going that way, and then I'm going to go down, and then I'm going to start underneath where I started here, and I'm going to make a bar on the bottom, and this base goes beyond, and then I'm going to put a ball in the belly. This is important that you say those things with me. That's my mnemonic devices here for you. So I'm going to do this. That's kind of a core shape. Like in English, you have circles and lines as core shapes. And then I'm going to put, say this for me, bar on the bottom. Base goes beyond. Ball or belly button in the middle, in the belly. Ball in the belly. So it sounds like buh. That's a buh. That's a buh, and that's a buh. And then I can take that buh, and I could put all of my vowel aerobics underneath it. So for example, if I did that, it would sound like ba. If I did this, it would sound like B. If I did this, I'll get lazy and I'll use the dot for this. It would be be. You're reading Hebrew. You're reading Hebrew. So the bet has a bar on the bottom and a base that goes beyond and a ball in the belly. You're not supposed to forget it ever because I gave you all of those mnemonic devices. Now I want to show you, I'm going to go back to the first verse of our song. First verse. The first verse was Aleph-Bet, vet. Do it again. And so the bet was the second letter of our thing. I want to point out something really cool. I call it the letter bet, and it sounds like buh. And the very first sound of the name of the consonant, which I already told you, you'd never have to remember the names of the consonant, but I'm going to tell you that by the end of the class, the 6 weeks are over, maybe even by the end of the day when you sing this song over and over again, you will know the names of the letters, even though I'm telling you you don't have to. But the names of the letters in Hebrew always start with the consonant sound that they make. That's not true in English. In English, I could have the letter P, and that's the sound P, right? And I could have the letter T, and that sounds like T. But if I gave you this letter, for example, and I hate writing in English, if I gave you this letter, what's that called? And what does that start with? And if I gave you like this letter, what does it start with? It doesn't even start with consonant sounds. That's just crazy. In Hebrew, it's not crazy. It all makes sense. All of the consonant names start with consonant sounds, and the sound that it makes is the sound that the letter makes every single time. So it may or may not be impossible for you to remember that that's a bet because it sounds like buh. It's going to go both ways. But I'm telling you, you don't have to remember that the name is bet. You just have to remember that if you see a bar on the bottom and the base that goes beyond and a ball in the belly, it sounds like buh. Now, if you went to, I think I didn't bring my sheets with me of that. If you went to lesson 1 on the Hebrew Doc site, then you will see a practice that shows the buh. At the bottom of the page, it's going to show a practice of the buh with every single vowel. And if you click on the purple link, it's going to give you a video that has my lovely, usually evening voice, so it's usually like this. By the time I get to it in the end of the day, you're going to hear my voice sounding out, and you're going to see me underline each one going, ba, be, every single one. So you can practice with it. If you said, oh, wait, I didn't say ba, so then just rewind and go back. Just slide your little bar back. But what I want to point out here, all right, so we've got a bet, we've got the vowels. In the Torah, you may or may not have noticed, these are the first two letters of the first two words of the Torah. The first word and the second word both start with the letter bet. The first one, as I pointed out before, has a bet that's actually bigger than the rest. And we could talk about why we think that's true. But the first one has this vowel under it. Anybody remember what that is? That was a, so this sounds like b, b. So that's the very first sound of the creation of the world. B, b. So you are welcome to ask yourself, why did God create the world starting with a b? And when you ask yourself that question, be very proud of yourself, because that's a good question, because you can ask that question. I want to point out again that if you're going to see it in a Torah scroll, it's going to be fancier than that, but it's going to look like this. You're not going to see a ball in the belly. You're not going to see the vowel underneath it. And then you're going to see the next letter is going to be littler, like this. And so one reason that they say that God started with the letter bet is that it used to be that the letters were pictographs. And this used to be a picture of, the letter bet comes from bayit, which is a house. So I'm going to put a little bet there and a house. So this is kind of the house from which all of the rest of the creation emanated. So Bereshit is open this way. Everything's coming out of it. That's very cool. As I pointed out, it would be ridiculous to ask the question, why did God create the world with the letter I? Why did God use the word in as the first word to create the world? God did not. It's ridiculous to ask that question. Don't even ask that question. But continue to ask yourself, why did God start with the letter B? And every time you hear a B, I want you to think about why God chose that as the way to start the creation. I'm going to give you one hint and I don't know the right answer. I could just tell you a whole bunch of answers. If you were a baby and you're sitting there and you just woke up and you're not yet panicked enough about like feeding or diapering or whatever, and you're just going to make some sounds. What's one of the first sounds you're going to make? You're going to be able to do b, because it takes two lips, and you don't have control over a lot in your life, but you can control your lips. But you have to suckle. But you can but. So is that why we've got a baby world here? A whole baby universe? Maybe. But it's cool to think that it could be. I don't know. I'm going to give you more answers as the time goes on. But the first two words, as I said, so the first word starts with b, and the second word starts with that. What's that say? Ba. So the second word starts with ba. So now we have the beginnings of the first two words. So far, so good? All right. Now let's move on to second letter. The second letter, and I'm making my box again so you have an idea about approximately how big it is. I'm not doing a very good job of making a box, but sorry. The second letter is what I like to call a rounded resh. It's a rounded resh. Notice again, I'm starting from the top. And in some sense, it's the beginning of the letter bet. It's one of those core shapes, like I said, but it's a rounded resh. Now, hopefully you know what a rounded resh sounds like. What does it sound like? Rounded resh. What do you think it sounds like? Sounds like a. If it's called resh, then the sound is going to be r. Here's one of those things. Did you study French? If you studied French and you were going to say, I studied French, you wouldn't say, I studied French. You would say, I studied French, and you would have a r back there instead of a r. Americans say r. Remember I said, I want you to stand there and say, yes, I am from Shreveport. Because if you said, yes, I am from Shreveport, then you would sound like you were Israeli. But you're not going to say that. It's really hard for you to do the r all the time. You're going to say, yes, I am from Shreveport. It feels a little bit more French than it does any other language. There was a time when officially, if you wanted to be a news broadcaster in Israel, then you had to do a kind of a gentle trill for the R. You would say, yes, I am from Shreveport. a little bit almost Spanish-like, but not quite. Most Israelis will say r and not r and not r. So if you said, Shreveport, they're going to know where you're from. If you said Shreveport, then they might say, ooh, have you been studying Hebrew long? That sounds nice in Israeli. But you may never get a r out of it. I try on the audios to r. When I was 10 years old, when I was studying Hebrew when I was young, most of my teachers were Israeli. So I got to hear those pronunciations before I turned 10 and it all shut down. So that's the h. And I'm going to give you the vowels that we have. Here's another coincidence, or I'm not going to call it a coincidence, another really cool fact about the creation story. And that is the first two words, what we're going to finish being able to do hopefully today, they both start with a bet, and the next letter that they both have is a resh, which means b and r. So in the first word, we've got b, and then the next vowel is this. What does that sound like? Re. Re. So far this word sounds like bre. And the next word, we have that, which is ra. So we have bre and bara. So then we can ask the question, why did God create the universe starting with the sounds bara and bara? I'm glad you asked that. If you come up with an answer, let me know. Because those are the kinds of questions I love. And I can give you some, but I'd like to hear what you have to say. Are there official answers? Sometimes. All right, so that's the next one. The third letter that you're going to have to deal with on all of this, if I show you again, where's my orange? My orange is my semi-invisible. My third, there's my box that shows you where it is. I am a little bit embarrassed to tell you I have some favorite letters, and this is one of my favorite letters. If you're going to draw this, go like this, from the top left to the bottom right. And then start at the top here and go just below the middle. Just below the middle. Now start from above the middle and go right to the bottom. So it is not, and I hate to say this, it is not an X. It is not anything you've ever seen before in a consonant from English. It is a nothing that you've ever seen before. And I'm going to show you awesome things about that consonant. Hopefully you recognize it. It's supposed to look like this, the very first one. And if you remember anything of this song, you remember Aleph-Bet, vet. So we now have the bet, but now we have the Aleph. So it says it's called an Aleph. I already told you the secret which isn't much of a secret, that every consonant begins with the consonant sound that the letter makes. But I'm telling you that this is called an Aleph. And if you say Aleph, you're going to say, oh, but Rabbi Jana, Aleph is a vowel. It's a ah. It starts with a vowel. And I will say, oh, but now you're going to know better. It can't start with a vowel sound. Before you get to the vowel, before you get to the ah part of it, you have to first close your throat down and open it up to get to an ah. You can't just say it without closing your throat down and opening it up first. That's the sound of an Aleph. It's called a glottal stop because your glottis is closing down and opening up. So say ah, ah, ah. So it's not the ah part, it's the closing and opening. Could you do that without an ah in there? Could you just say ah, 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 ah? Sure you could. I just did it. Ah, ah, ah. So that's the sound that an Aleph makes. It's the sound that you get before you get to the ah. It's the ah. And so what's cool about that? You have to do that with your mouth open. In Kabbalah, in Jewish mysticism, they teach you that when God wrote the letters, then there's the part that you see is just as important as the part you don't see. Anybody play music? If you're playing music, the rests, the stopping parts, the silent parts, to make music is just as important as the music itself. If I did that's not a very good music piece, I'm just saying. But if I did that would mean something. It would be more musical than me just saying Okay? Rests are important too. So here what I want to do is this. I want to point out that this consonant points. Remember I told you that little secret about bet pointing this way? This consonant points in all directions. But the blank spaces, the parts that you don't see, the parts that aren't dark, they're pointing in all the other directions. It's the only consonant that is open to all directions. It's open in all directions, it's pointing to all directions, and next class, you're going to find out that the word for God in this creation story is Elohim. And the important part there is that it starts with this consonant is the first letter of one of the words that means God. A letter that you can see, but you can't really hear. A letter that's open in all directions. I love this letter. I love this letter. So that's your Aleph. Got it? So now let me tell you some sad things about the Aleph in our selection here. So the sad part is that in both cases, it is acting more like a vowel than it is a consonant. What? You told me that I don't even know what that means. Why are you saying that? Anyway, that's what's... it's called a vowel consonant. That's what it's called here. I mean, it could be, but it is a vowel consonant. So what's happening here is we did this. We did b, re. Now that there's an aleph there, the aleph is kind of letting that be even longer. And so most people pronounce this bare. And in this, I told you that this, you'll notice that this word only has 3 consonants. Most words in the Semitic languages, which includes Hebrew and Arabic and Amharic in Ethiopia and a whole bunch of other languages, most of those words have 3 root letter cores. So the core of the word has 3 root letters. This word is the whole 3 root letters. Bara means he created. Bara, that's a word all in itself. The 3 root letters, Bet Resh Aleph, means create. Bara, that word means he created. The aleph ends the word because you need the 3 root letters. It is essentially silent at the end of this, bara, and it's not supposed to be above the letters, by the way. I blew that. It's not supposed to be a capital. Bare and bara. We have that so far. Bare and bara. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to make it so that it doesn't look like that. I'm going to make it so it looks like this, the same size as those, bare and bara. It has no vowel under it. It could. I could put like this vowel and then it would sound like E, and I could put this vowel and it'll sound like oo. In fact, I did. You'll notice that on my chart I use alephs to represent the positioning of where it would be because it lets me just kind of say the vowel sound. So now we have 3 consonants, and we have Bereshit and Bara, and the second word is already completed. And how cool is it that this word, those 3 root letters, Bet Resh Aleph, will always mean create. That's what it means. And the first 3 letters of the first word of the Torah, which continues, we already see the word create in there. Anybody think that's cool? Anybody? Not only is that cool, but I could blow your mind one more time because it is not just that those 3 letters are the same as these 3 letters and they both mean create, and we just saw creation happen twice, kind of. But these 3 consonants very specifically are the root letters for bara, which means create, and these 3 consonants very specifically are not the 3 letters that have to do with create. They're not the 3 root letters. The bet is a prefix which means in or with. B. And the resh and the aleph are part of the core 3 root letter thing. Let's find out where that's going. But it's really cool that it's there. All right, here's my box again. And then we're going to do this. Take your 3 fingers like this and put it in front of your mouth and make a sound. Pretend that they're your front teeth like this. And make a sound that comes out of those teeth like this. Shh. And you get this consonant, shh. So it's going to look like this. I'm going to write it like this. I'm going to come down, and I'm going to come over, and I'm going to come up. And then I'm going to put, because I just showed you how to make it like this, I'm going to put that line in the middle there. Sometimes people make it, as you saw here, where the line comes down. But if you're thinking that the letter is called a shin, and it means tooth, and you're making sound come out of your teeth, I need an orthodontist if that were my teeth. So I like this one better. We're going to do another one here. Sometimes it's a little rounder than that. The other clue is, on this, I want you to put a dot on the right. I want you to remember that she is always right. Just saying. Because if it has a dot on the right, it's a sh. You're going to notice that there's one over here with a dot on the left. It's going to be a different sound. Also a different sound that comes through your teeth, like s, but we won't worry about that today. This one's sh, because she's always right. All right, so now we have this. Let's see what happens if I put vowels here. So if I put that vowel, it sounds like sha. If I put, what's your favorite vowels? If I put this vowel, it sounds like shu. And if I put this vowel, it sounds like she. But I'm going to put, let me take this one away. I'm going to put this vowel. You remember that vowel? That was this plus this. She. So in this, excuse me, we've got this. She. And I've squished this way too close. So we already saw that word. So now we have, so far this word is bar on the bottom, base goes beyond, ball in the belly. It's a b with an so it's b. And then we have a rounded resh with an e. And we have a silent aleph, which is kind of going to help this one be a little bit longer, so it's bare. And then I have a shin with an e, so it sounds like she. So far I have bare, she. And I have one more consonant left. And that one consonant, I got to erase the board. It's not good when you're erasing a board. I like doing the colors. It makes me happy. The bad thing is if it's leaving ghosts behind. And when you're Hebrew, look, there's dots all over the place, and that's bad because you can't have dots. So here's your invisible lines again. Here is your box that shows the same size. So far, all of our consonants have been the same size. And we're going to do this. Same kind of core shape. That looks like a resh, doesn't it? It looks like the beginning of the bet, but it's not. Because now what we're going to do is, instead of making a bar on the bottom, we're going to attach it at the top left. Say that for me. Attached at the top left, and then I'm going to put a toe or a tail at the bottom left. Toe or tail at the bottom left. Attached at the top, toe or tail. Guess what it sounds like? Thank you. And in case you're checking, you now learned the first letter and the last letter of the Aleph-Bet. You now know Aleph and Tav. Tav is the last letter. So Tav is a T. And this, in this case, it ends our word here. And it's not going to have a vowel under it because it's the last consonant of the word. So the first word of the Torah, the first word of creation is Bereshit. Bereshit. Bereshit is not just the first word of the Torah. It's also what we call the whole book of Genesis, if you're referring to it in Hebrew. The books, the Torah portions, if I were to tell you what portion we're reading this week, I would use one of the first unique words, I would call it. Sorry, I'm moving back. I would use one of the first unique words. And someone's already defined that for us. And the first unique word is the first word, Bereshit. I don't want to say first significant word because I think that all words in the Torah are significant. Bereshit is the first word. And the second word is bara. Bereshit, bara. So let me tell you, we do see that the first three letters, Bet, Resh, Aleph, are the first three letters of this word, or the only three letters of that word. And we know that it has something to do with creation. And we think that's really cool, that we're kind of pounding in the fact that what's going on here is a creation story. But in this case, it means something different. The B is a prefix, and it means in or with. Sometimes it means on. And then the next word that goes here, the Resh, Aleph, Shin, those three root letters, Resh, Aleph, Shin, there's a holiday that we have in the fall. That's the New Year. What's the holiday that's the fall New Year? Do you know? Rosh Hashanah. So Rosh Hashanah, this is Rosh. It means head. And then the it ending is something like an instance of, I'm going to call it. So you can see, sorry about that, Tim. You can see that if there's a creation moment, if there's a baby being born, most of the time, often, when a baby is born, you want that head to pop out. and you've got a birth. So this is at a head instance. That's one of the ways that I like to look at this. I can tell you that I do not like to look at this as in the beginning. That is an in, but there is no the here. And so we have in a heady moment or in an initial moment if you want. There's another thing that if I take this whole word, the reshit word, that reshit is used in other places in the Torah. So for example, it says, it can mean something like primal matter. This could mean with primal matter, he created. It could mean that. It's a very legitimate way of looking at it. Or at the first instance, he created. Or maybe. It doesn't say the first time, but it could be the first time. See, there's a Talmudic story that says that God created many, many worlds, like at least 70 different worlds, and kept crumpling them up and throwing them out. And this is just one example. Why are there two creation stories in Torah? Well, God did it this way and created the first day, the second day, blah, 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 and different things. And the last day God created humans, and God looked at that and said, I'm not so sure about that, and crumpled it up and started all over again. And I can show you in the text when we get to chapter 2 why they thought that, why they thought that the first story isn't even part of what we are now. Is it the only way to look at it? Absolutely not. So we can now read Bereshit bara. There's actually a whole bunch of, if you print out the first chapter, there's a whole bunch of words that you can read, and it's also on the purple links, the show me videos that shows you how to do that. Yeah, you have questions.
The second word is he created.
Yep, so the first word, and when you, right, so the first word, and when you print out the whole chapter, it says that, it tells you how to break this all down. Bereshit bara means something like, and if you want, I'm not going to get mad if you say in the beginning, if you're really stuck on that and you want to say in the beginning, you can say in the beginning. I'm just telling you, I don't like that translation. But even if you say in the beginning, bara means he created. In the beginning, he created. That's our first two words, and that's as far as we get today. Those 5 letters. Practice those letters. You can print out flashcards from the website, so you can, forgive the expression, flash yourself if you need to learn this stuff. But you should be learning those things. You can practice writing on them. I've got them so that they're outline version, so you can color them in. Some people take like a piece of plastic, put it on top, and then color on it, and then erase the coloring and do it over and over again. You can, however you like doing it, practice, know those letters. If you've got questions, let me know. But all right, so let me tell you something important. We are streaming this, so if you missed the beginning, it means that if you want to make a donation to B'nai Zion, you're welcome to do that, but I'm not obligating anybody to do it, because there are a few people that are watching, and they don't have a way necessarily of paying us directly. If they want to make donations, they can too. I like teaching, so it's fine. We are streaming the classes, so if you miss one, you can watch it, and that helps too. I'll post them. I'm going to one day hopefully edit them so that you can actually see big copies of that, but I don't have enough time to do that right now. I'm going to try to add more learning materials. If there are things you wish were there, let me know, or an easier format to look at it. I'm the one who maintains the web page, so let me know. As of right now, we are scheduled to meet next, I'm going to look at my calendar, next Thursday is the 18th. And the 25th, those are the 3 Thursdays, including today, those are the 2 last Thursdays left in February. But we are skipping March 3rd and then doing 3. Why are we skipping March 3rd? Do you remember? It's my birthday. So we're skipping March 3rd. And I say that because it's only one of my birthdays. On the Jewish calendar, we are in a leap year this year. As a matter of fact, today is Thursday. We're in the 2nd day of the month of Adar 1. We had an extra month this year in a leap year on the Jewish calendar, or the biblical calendar, however you like to look at it. And so my birthday is the 4th of Adar, which falls this Saturday. And I was born on the 4th of Adar, which was the 3rd of March. And that means I get 2 4th of Adars this year. So I get to have 3 birthdays, which is fun. Nobody else has to remember that, but I get a lot of chocolate. I'm just saying. I will treat myself to chocolate on every one of my birthdays, and I'm happy about that. But we're going to skip March 3rd because of that, and we're going to just do the next 3. So we've got the last 2 this month, and then skip March 3rd, and then another 3, and then we'll have finished the whole Aleph-Bet, and then we can decide what we do after that. Any other question? Thank you, everybody. That's the hour. Appreciate you.